Our City Council Strategic Planning meeting for November 4th to order. Can I get a motion on the approval of the minutes from 8/19?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Minutes will stand without objection. Council, I want to make you aware that we do have one other item we're going to add to our discussion items. After code enforcement, we have invited the Chattanooga Area Food Bank to join us to give us an update on how our community is responding to the withholding of SNAP benefits from the federal government, and how we can potentially be involved in the short-term and hopefully only short-term solutions. So let's go ahead and welcome code enforcement. I think we've got Donna. We've got code enforcement. Yes. Hey there.
Hey, Donna.
So I guess I need to hook up here, huh?
Yes, please.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, that'd be fine. That's what we were talking about.
The code enforcement has a lot happening these days.
I don't know if it'll reach all the way.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay. Okay, so code enforcement addresses property maintenance issues. More specifically, housing and structure violations, litter, overgrowth, and inoperable vehicles on private property only. We condemn structures that are no longer safe to live in, but just because a structure is condemned doesn't mean it's going to be demolished, because the majority of those, actually, the owner will hire a contractor who will pull permits and make repairs and get a new certificate of occupancy so that the structures can be occupied again. For the most dangerous structures, we do go ahead and perform demolition after we get demolition orders. For structures that we find are dangerous to first responders, like maybe an inspector's out and sees that there are holes in the floor or holes in the roof, then we actually provide that information to 911 dispatch. Our software has a button in it that actually the inspector can just click that button and it automatically provides that information to 911, so that if first responders are called to a specific address, then the dispatcher can let the people know that the structures may be dangerous and exactly what those specific hazards are. We perform interior inspections when tenants request it. We can tow inoperable vehicles off of private property after giving the owner time to take care of it. We also maintain back tax properties by mowing the yards, cleaning up litter. We also abate private property for litter, overgrowth, and we board vacant structures, and we place liens for the cost of those. Some of the things that we actually don't do, that we get a lot of requests for, is inoperable vehicles on the street, and that would be CPD. Chicken issues, that's McCamey, and then, of course, homeless camps, that would be homeless initiatives. Over the past year, just to kind of give you an idea of the things that we can accomplish in a year, we have demolished 25 dangerous structures. We've boarded 58, 481 back tax property abatements, 1,145 private property abatements. We towed 37 inoperable vehicles from private property, and we condemned 148 dangerous structures. 65 of the condemned structures were repaired and livable again because we kept pursuing court with the property owners. We brought 11,893 code violations into compliance, and 1,937 of those cases required court action. Our cases are tracked in CityView. That's the software that we use, and it interfaces with GoGov. So we receive our 311 requests directly into our system. It schedules inspections and re-inspections for our inspectors. It populates notices, documents, and summonses, and it requires the inspectors to upload photographs after every inspection. And it provides a daily to-do list for all of our inspectors so that it keeps us on track. Recently, we've taken some steps to shorten compliance. Basically, we are no longer granting any time extensions. So if someone is given a notice to cut their grass or clean up litter. They have 2 weeks. At the end of that 2-week period, they're cited to court. They are not granted any time extensions, even if they provide an excuse, which is fine. The Judge Patey can grant additional time extensions if she feels it's warranted. We are also increasing the use of daily fines. Judge Patey has been supporting that very well when an owner is simply not willing to correct the violations but has the ability to do so. And we are also abating occupied properties now, which if the property has been problematic and we have not been able to bring it into compliance any other way, then we can get a court order and actually go onto the property, clean up the litter, whatever is required. Of course, there again, it is limited to litter, overgrowth, or removing inoperable vehicles. And then some not so recent changes are, in the past, we also took unoccupied properties and vacant property violations to court before we abated them. But we changed so that we were only required to post a public nuisance, mail a public nuisance, and then we were allowed to go ahead and continue with abatement and place a lien for the cost with just those notices. So timelines. We know that sometimes it takes a while to bring properties into compliance, but we are also need to give property owners due process so that they have an opportunity to make their required repairs. Our public nuisance notices, again, since we're going to be abating it ourselves and placing a lien on the property, we do give them 10 days to bring the property into compliance before we proceed. For violation notices on occupied properties, they have 10 business days for litter, overgrowth, and inoperable vehicles, or 30 business days for structure violations to bring those into compliance. And if those are not in compliance, then they are cited to court, and the hearings are 3 to 4 weeks after that reinspection. For demolition hearings, we are required to provide a minimum of 30 days notice to the property owner and all interested parties. Once a demolition order is issued, we're required to wait an additional 60 days to allow the property owner to file a temporary restraining order in Chancery Court if they want to prevent the demolition of their structure. So, what should you expect if we're doing a systematic inspection or a blitz in your district? Okay, so our entire inspection team will be performing inspections in your district for 2 days, looking for code violations. Yellow violation tags will be posted at addresses that have violations. After 2 weeks or 6 weeks for structure violations, the properties will be re-inspected, and if violations remain, owners of occupied properties will be cited to environmental court. Vacant properties will begin the abatement process. Are there questions? Yes, ma'am. Okay.
We've got a lot. Let's see.
Okay, all right, okay.
Councilman Burrs, did you raise your hand also?
I think
Okay, well, I know
Councilwoman Dotley did
Councilwoman Dotley,
first,
I'm just
yeah.
trying to get the order here.
Yeah.
We've got Councilwoman Dotley, Councilwoman Burrs, Councilman Elliott, Councilwoman Knoll, Councilman Henderson, and then Councilman
Really?
Wheeler.
Just go around the room.
And then,
I don't care if you go out of order. Go around the
okay,
room.
all right, y'all remember that order and take it amongst yourselves. Okay, go for it, Councilwoman.
Okay, thank you so much, Madam Chair. Donald, this is so fantastic. I think this is good education for all of us with some of the information that you provided. So I had a question about, you mentioned occupied property abatements. Again, what happens with those? They're not in compliance, but someone lives there. Is that what you're, like,
Yes.
how does that work?
Okay, so we've had a few cases where they just had, they're hoarders, and the litter has been very problematic, and the neighbors have been very upset. And so if we've taken it to court and we have done everything that we can to try to get the owner to comply, and they don't, then we asked Judge Patey to sign an order for us to abate the occupied property. And then we send vendors onto the property to clean up the mess. And we do keep an inspector on site. While that takes place, we take a lot of photographs and things like that to document everything. Sometimes police are needed, you know, and we do get police involved if the owners or the occupants are, you know, very aggressive or whatever, yes.
Okay, and then so we're paying for this, and then that
And we
The-
place the lien on the property.
place lien on the property,
yes.
and then that's paid out with their property taxes, typically.
Yes, they receive a bill,
Okay.
yes, and then, of course, if they don't pay it, you know, then it just remains, it just continues on. If they sell the property and the buyer wants a warranty deed instead of a quitclaim deed, then of course, you know, the title company would reach out and make sure that, those liens are paid out of the proceeds of the closing generally.
And it's collected in the back tax sale if there is a back tax.
Yes, yes, it is.
Okay, and then my next question is, inoperable vehicles towed from private property, what is the, cause I understand on the street, you know, they have to have, you know, their tags have to be, up to date and all those things, if they're not, you know, CPD can handle that part. For the inoperable vehicles towed from private property, how long does that process take? Like if I call and say my neighbor has had a broken down car in his yard for 30 days, you know, how long does it take for us to get into that?
Okay, so after the initial inspection, they would have 2 weeks to either show that the car runs, the vehicle runs, and that would involve them calling the inspector would meet with them, they would need to get in the car, crank it up, show that they can drive it forward, back it up, drive it in reverse.
Oh.
Yeah, and if they do that, then, we close the case as compliant.
Okay.
It doesn't matter if the car's beat up or whatever, if it runs, you know, it's okay. And then if they don't contact us within 2 weeks and show that it runs, and if they don't remove the vehicle themselves, then they are cited to court. And then Judge Patey can grant additional time, or she can issue a tow order.
Okay.
And then if a tow order is issued, the inspector goes ahead and posts it to the property to allow one last chance for the owner to remove the vehicle. And if they don't, then we go ahead and tow the vehicle. If the owner wants to claim the vehicle back, then they have to go to the tow company, pay the tow fee, the storage fee, and provide proof of ownership in order to reclaim the vehicle. And then, you know, and we always let them know if they're reclaiming the vehicle that they don't need to bring it back there. You know, they need to send it somewhere to be repaired or something, yes.
Okay. Okay, and then, who handles our demolition hearings? Is that still Judge Patey?
Jim Exum.
Jim Exum, okay, okay.
He's our public officer, yes.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay. Okay, he's fantastic.
He is,
Yeah.
yes, we're very happy with him, yes.
Okay, and I think that's all my questions. Thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you, Donna.
Thank
I do
you.
have a list in order, so come
I'm gonna tack on to one question that just popped up, based on the conversation with Councilwoman Dotley. How do we recoup our expenses when we have to tow a vehicle if they never come and claim it?
There's no charge, because the
So we
tow
have an expense, right?
No,
Okay.
there's no charge.
Oh.
The tow company, if nobody reclaims the vehicle, they take ownership of the vehicle and they
Oh,
sell it.
the tow company, okay.
Yep.
Oh, okay, win-win.
Oh.
Yes.
All right, my two questions are, when you speak of vacant property, does that include commercial property?
Yes.
Okay, and so what's an example of a vacant commercial property that may get a violation?
2003 Wilcox Boulevard, the old church over there. Yeah, it's a vacant property. And so we took it actually to demolition hearing because we couldn't get the owner to do anything with it. And so it's been in Chancery Court for quite some time now, where the Chancery judge has given them additional time to get it rezoned and try to do something with the property. That's been a long case on that one.
Is it just properties that are in disrepair?
Yes.
Commercial properties that are in
Yes.
disrepair?
Yes,
Okay.
I mean, if a structure is vacant, but it doesn't have any code violations, you know, it doesn't like need to be painted or have rotten
It's not a
wood or
nuisance,
whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, then, it's fine, we don't do anything about that.
And then when, during the blitz, when you go and tag, or find violations with different properties, how are you verifying whether you leave a tag or it's mailed? And I'm thinking, what's prompting my question is, you have a lot of properties that aren't, owner occupied.
Right.
So if I'm renting, I see a tag, oh well.
Right, okay, so what our inspectors do is, while they're on site, and a lot of times if the violation is litter or even overgrowth or inoperable vehicles, chances are it may be on the tenant. But, so the violation tags, the inspector marks on the back what the issue is, posts it to the property. But then the inspector also checks, and if the mailing address for the owner is not the same as the rental property, then we will mail a notice of violation to the property owner.
Okay. That's all I have right now. Thank
Okay,
you so
thank
much.
you.
Thank you, Councilman Elliott.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Donna, I know there's been some conversations with, where you guys are looking at some ways to make code enforcement even more effective in their roles. When can we expect to see some of those, proposals?
Okay, well, I know that we are still looking at ways to turn fines, court fines, into liens. We are exploring that. And also, you know, looking at other ways to maybe take properties that have been, have just had a very bad track record as far as constant issues, and do something perhaps more aggressively with those. Right now, our best tool really is demolition hearings, because, you know, if they plan to do anything at all, and we take it to a demolition hearing, and we haven't been able to get them to address the issues with the property prior to that, if it meets demolition criteria, we can get them to a demolition hearing. Right now, that is our best tool. But other than that, really, Phil may be able to help me on this as far as, we have been reaching out to try to work out some things with turning, city court fines into liens on properties, and then other ways to collect liens if necessary.
When are you guys gonna be presenting those changes?
I don't know, we are still meeting on those, and I know Bill Gore has, he's had some conversations, also, with an attorney, about that, but at this point, that is, I'm involved in it, but I'm not leading the charge, we'll put it that way.
I'd like to add something to what Donna is saying. So for more than a year, or almost a year now, we've been convening a multidisciplinary group of departments to figure out how to turn up the heat on neighbors that need to do a better job at being neighbors. We, as a catchy Operation Better Neighbor, the next time we meet, I'll be sure that we invite the entire council. That work of connecting codes and police and fire and neighborhood services and homelessness services and legal has gotten us some serious progress with regard to the liens, but it is definitely slow progress. So I don't know that we have a date on when we'll be able to turn over the new information about how to turn the court fines into liens, but that is work that the legal team is doing.
Okay.
And that's a big part of the enforcement, and you probably saw that in the auditor's report as well. Because if we've got fines sitting on the books and nobody ever has to pay them, then it's costing us money to fix these properties, but they can continually be repeat offenders if there's no accountability on the part of the property.
And on the liens also, when they're about to expire, at this point, we are tracking those and sending them back over to Adam in the city attorney's office. And then we're basically renewing those liens as they approach their 10-year
10-year lifespan.
expiration. Yes, yeah.
Are you guys making any ordinance recommendations to potentially help code enforcement do their jobs?
You mean making changes to I don't know that we need any ordinance changes at this time.
So that's not even something you guys are reviewing?
Well, we are reviewing our processes and our ordinances. At this point, we haven't really come up with anything specific that will make, that can be, implemented immediately to shorten compliance times or to basically give code enforcement more teeth. Because there again, we do have to give owners due process. I mean, we have discussed a number of things, and there have been times, many, many years ago, that, liens were actually foreclosed on, you know, and properties taken. But, that was something that actually was, not cost effective for the city. We'll put it that way.
I think we see the greatest opportunity for ordinance change at the lien piece and how we might change the way the liens are read, so, that was something to keep.
Yeah, I think the reason I asked is this is something that I had started looking into, not even understanding that another group was looking into it as well. Largely selfishly for the purposes of my district to start cleaning up some areas that need some help that's been overly neglected for a while. And I was under the assumption there were some ordinances that were being reviewed that at some point were gonna be proposed to council to consider. So,
Okay,
and if that's not the case, we can take this offline too, so we don't have to, and I don't mean to cut you off, but I don't wanna put anybody on the seat unnecessarily, on something, but, yeah.
Okay, so please provide us with where you would like for us to focus our attention if we're missing some areas. And on occupied properties, there again, we are getting orders now where we can abate those occupied properties. I know like 4228 Forest Plaza, we've cleaned it up numerous times. There are a couple of other addresses that we've cleaned up numerous times, where there are hoarding situations or people have allowed, homeless to move in with them, and they're bringing in scrap and things like that, and we've cleaned them up over and over.
And if I could say this is something I'm trying to be intentional about. I think you all know your operations and limitations and challenges better than we do. And so I was hoping to hear from you all. Now I can lean in and find changes, but I am trying to respect those boundaries of the executive branch and allowing you all to work through those, because I have thoughts on some things that we have looked at, but I'm trying to make sure this is as collaborative as possible. So I'll be looking forward to invitations from good
Yeah,
neighbors.
I'll get you, and then also you might have your top, repeat frequent flyers.
Yes.
That Operation Better Neighbor can study. Those case
Yes.
studies we're learning a lot from.
It's because I think there's some low hanging fruit that we can capture early. There were some conversations. Councilman Clark and I shared a neighborhood, Towerway, where they expressed great concern about cars, abandoned vehicles just being parked in the street for months and years at a time, and understanding that those are not in the purview of codes, but trying to be creative about how do we as a city streamline those operations. And I know that is the purview of the police department. But I understand the police department is also short-staffed. So how do we kind of marry those two? So that's it. That's what I was asking. So we can have the conversation more offline.
Councilman, can I offer a little perspective? With permission,
Yes.
Chair? So I think a lot of folks know that our $50 fine maximum here dates back to maybe the 1700s, I think, where that would have been in today's dollars, thousands and thousands of dollars. Now it, of course, is $50 in today's dollars. And so a lot of times the codes will go out and they do their job well, and then they write a lot of these $50 violations up, and they just sit there, as you've identified. Now, in order to get that change, which is the obvious question, why wouldn't you just increase that to something that would actually get people's attention? The problem is that is written into the charter of the state of Tennessee. And just like our charter, when we have to go and change that, that requires a referendum. That would be a statewide referendum in which all voters during an election would have to vote to increase that up. That is why the state has given us the administrative hearing officer tool, which many of you are familiar with. Administrative hearing officer can do fines, and not fines, they are
Civil penalties.
They're civil penalties in excess of $50. Yes, thank you for helping me catch myself there. And that can be much more effective at getting people's attention. And so we've been on a journey the last couple of years to start using that AHO tool a lot more often, and I know Donna's office has been looking at that, and so we will hopefully be able to show you more and more results as we move forward, where that tool is being used to get attention and to bring people back into compliance, because this tool is not meant to be a penalty or to hurt someone or to take from someone, but rather to bring them back into the good graces of the law and society. So with that, we'd like to do more of that.
Thank you, Ellis. And I'm familiar with the AHO. And I understand council gives parameters as to what can go before AHO. And I would like to see from you all's perspective, what are some things that you may recommend that we could open those parameters to allow to give you guys more teeth to not only once we figure out a better way to collect fines and fees to actually make these penalties stick, but what are some ways we can have some more teeth to some other problem areas? So we can talk more about it, but that's all. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Vice Chairwoman Knoll.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Castile. So, actually had 3 questions, but 2 of them has already been answered. Okay, so the fines that people are given, is there interest occurring on those fines?
No, not at this time. And I will point out that Judge Patey is often allowing us to get daily fines for each violation. So if you have an address that has litter, that's one, overgrowth, that's one, and there can be multiple housing violations. They may need to paint, replace the roof, different things like that. So there may be 3 housing violations. That can be 5 $50 fines, and she will let us have daily fines for cases that are dragging on. So we have cases that have thousands of dollars in fines from environmental court. But the issue is, there's no way to make people pay those fines.
Yeah.
And so I feel strongly that the ability to to turn fines into liens is going to be an extremely good tool for us.
Okay, so, and I'm just speaking from the Great District 8. The struggle is real. So, $50 might not be a lot to any of us sitting in this room, but to a lot of my constituents in the Great District 8, $50 is a lot of money.
Yes.
And the fact that a lot of them live on Social Security or SSI, and that's their only source of income, it can be a strain, even though they know they have things that need to be done and work undone on their homes, but they don't have the money to do it. So my last question is, I, as a city council representative, do I have the option to opt out of this blitz
Yes.
for my district?
Yes.
Okay.
It's up to you. So you can opt out.
Okay,
And for citizens who do tell us, I know I need to paint my house, I don't have the money or whatever, we do provide them with lists of resources that may be able to help them, although I know, the waiting lists are long and there isn't enough help to go around. And if they do end up in court, Judge Patey, generally will maybe have them come back a few times and ask, have you checked this, have you checked that kind of thing.
right.
But I do understand that is an issue, and that's another thing that we are working with neighborhood services on, the neighborhood relationship specialists, as far as they've been reaching out to the neighborhood association groups
Right.
and also churches to try to find some additional resources to provide help for people who cannot maintain their homes or even cut their grass and that
Right,
kind of thing.
right,
Yes.
it's there. Okay, I think, so, one, I said that was my last, but I got something else
Okay.
here. Vehicles that's inoperable. If that vehicle is covered, if it's behind a fence,
Okay.
does that keep you from,
If we can't see it from like the street.
Street.
Or if the neighbor complains and they can see it from their backyard.
yes,
And they tell us and they want us to come and take a look, then we can look from, we can.
from a distance?
From a distance, yes. Yes. Or if somebody has it in their garage, that's fine. Or if they have a privacy fence and we're never able to see it and nobody invites us to come onto their property and look, if we have no ability to see the vehicle in the first place. But once we've seen it, if they pull it behind their house where we can't see it anymore, but we still know it's there, the neighbor tells us or whatever, then they would still have to show us that it runs.
That it runs?
Yes,
Okay.
but a tarp doesn't
Doesn't, okay,
fix the
all
problem,
right,
no.
okay, thank you,
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Okay.
Councilman Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Councilwoman Knoll, to your point, I think somebody emailed me, and I wanted to say it was Kim Strong, but I can't find that email, basically asking, do we have permission to do the
Right.
splits in your
Right.
district? So,
I did get that email.
okay.
I did, I got that, yes.
So I took from that we could opt out of it if
Yes,
we
you
chose
can
to. I think the biggest thing that I have a question on, and it goes back to the liens and collecting the fines, and I've got two properties in my district. One is a vacant lot that they store equipment on that's not supposed to have equipment on. They've gone to the AHO, and I think they're getting fines of $500 a day. But so what? It
Yeah.
hadn't changed a thing. It hadn't changed a thing. Another one that I think we're going over now and almost monthly having to mow the grass because it's an abandoned house. In fact, I think it's condemned and they're not mowing the grass, so we're having to go mow the grass because it's in a subdivision. Can we not put these fines, and I know abatement is probably different than fines. Abatement, we can file liens on.
Yes.
It would be nice if we could file liens on the fines, because the gentleman that's got the equipment just sitting there is just obviously ignoring the fines. Is that not something that can be put onto the property tax bill?
Well, it's not a tax, it is a cost.
Well, neither is the stormwater fee, but it's placed on our property tax, and if you don't pay it, you can still get, charged with back taxes, just as if you weren't paying your property taxes.
To be able to be collected, it would have to be authorized in the code, in order to be able to do that.
In the code, as in, we could make that code?
Yes,
I mean, you're talking about an ordinance?
an ordinance amendment.
So this council could authorize, liens be placed onto the property tax bill.
You could. Currently, the only method that we're getting of those is being able to collect after the property is up for delinquent taxes for a period of time. And we can collect all
Well,
of those liens.
I would say that would be one ordinance that we could look at immediately, is to put these liens on the
You mean
property.
fines? Fines as liens?
All right.
Well,
Yeah, we gotta make sure you're using the right words.
Civil.
fines, civil penalties, fines, and/or liens.
Okay, so the liens are on there and they aren't going out with the property tax notices. The liens for abatements, but not, so abatement liens, like if we cut the grass and we place a lien,
Yeah,
then that cost is added to their property taxes and they get
okay,
that.
those are already going on.
They're already going out. But the fines, city court fines or AHO civil penalties,
Or not,
are not.
but according to Phil, we can. Is that what I'm understanding you to say?
I'm saying, saying if you put that in an ordinance that you can collect it, yes, that's one thing. The issue is, that determination of whether that court, fine is something that can be collected in a lien, I would have to look at specifically. But your expenses that you have for the city and your determination, there's currently provisions about whether something is a public nuisance or not here on properties. And if it's determined to be that, at that point in time, and there's a cost of abatement for that, I clearly think that's something you could put on their bill.
I'll add, Phil has had representatives from legal as part of Operation Better Neighbor, and they have pointed out some tricky nuances to it, that it's like, I think personally, my thought would be, let's get the language right and legal, then skip quickly to something that we just say we're gonna put it on the bill when actually we're not allowed to collect it, in that way. Cause we need something that if you go to sell it, we get paid, right?
Well, but then the lien runs out in 10 years, we have to renew it, and that's the whole problem is you don't collect the lien until you go to sell it.
Right,
Whereas if we could add these to the property tax,
then we could capture.
that's a little bit more immediate, or they don't pay it and then we can file.
Well, the lien that is filed in court is clearly showing on the property for any title search that is done. So if someone sells that property, then you get paid as a result of that.
But I mean, the situation with the equipment that's just sitting on the vacant property,
Yeah.
they're just ignoring it. They're just ignoring the fine and parking it. And my guess is that that piece of property, as long as he pays his property tax, he can use it for a parking lot to store illegal equipment, or I say illegal equipment, to equipment that he's not supposed to. So,
Councilman Tarple.
I mean, I would like to, of course, if you're saying you're already looking into whether those fines could be placed on the property tax bill, I mean, I think we go about it that way, and get the language right, but otherwise, they're gonna continue to ignore the fine. I mean, we thought taking them to AHO to where we can impose a $500 a day fine would get somebody's attention, but if you decide you're not gonna pay it, then you're not gonna pay it. But to me, I see that as our number one problem, is being able to collect and make that's where the teeth are.
Councilman Clark.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I actually have 4 questions, but one of my questions is related to how we're using the fines as liens, because what I'm hearing is that we don't have a strong enough enforcement mechanism to actually stop what we're trying to enforce, because either we're not collecting it and it's just sitting there or accumulating. So my question, this may be a wild assertion, so bear with me on this, Bill, is that if my ideal and question maybe to some of the policy people in the room is that if they don't care about fines and they don't care about keeping the property up, then why are we not having discussions about eminent domain and taking the properties and putting them into the inventory of the city so it can be developed and we can use it for affordable housing? Because to your point, is if they're accumulating fees from the administrative hearing officer that amounts to $20,000, you know, they have no intent on developing that. And I think that hurts the city, especially in a city where we don't have ordinance that allows us to tax vacant lots. So that's one thing I don't know your thought. I would love to hear our thoughts on that. I think we could use eminent domain to start seizing properties that people aren't keeping up, that are accumulating these types of fees. And so that was my question. Is how can we better use the administrative hearing officer to be impactful? Because we're hearing all of this stuff, but nothing's happening. So I'd just be curious to know, what are your thoughts on that, or what you know about it? I know Chris.
Well, my initial thought would be, sounds like we have some real interest in digging in together on how we tackle this next step of enforcement.
Gotcha.
We have made progress from where we've been. There's more to be done. So I will get us an Operation Better Neighbor meeting specifically about this on the calendar in this
Gotcha.
month. And then whoever wants to attend can, and we'll get a full update from legal, codes, police, because it's complicated and we're moving the ball, but we need to keep moving it. It's great that we've got this energy.
But the idea is to make sure our enforcement is actually getting us the results, and so far it is not. And so I think we might need to be a little bit stricter. You know, we talked about this last night, and maybe seizing properties that don't want to come in compliance with our code. So that's a follow-up question to that. Donna, I have a question about the Blitz. Now, just so you all know, what started the Blitz is that my district was already blitzed, and I didn't know it. Now, the caveat of that is that we welcomed it. My district had become a landfill where people were putting mattresses out, you know, brush. And I was like, not in my suburban District 5, okay? That is the greater 5th district, not to be confused with district, the great 8. So you're welcome. The Blitz, you know, I think we need stricter code enforcement. But my question, Donna, to you as a lesson from what happened in my district, which thank you for doing the Blitz. And by the way, District 5 is back on the Blitz schedule for March. It doesn't hurt to come back again and blitz us again because we're that behind. How are we cross-referencing this with 311 requests? Because in my Blitz, we did give a violation notice to people who had 311 requests, and I know there's a backlog of that. So tell me your process in very short layman's terms.
Sure.
What we are doing to make sure we cross-reference 311 requests that they're not getting violated.
Okay, so we do have access to look in 311 to see if someone has entered a request or not. And so before hanging a tag or whatever, then we do check to see, you know, if someone turned in a request. There was a little bit of confusion because on some of those, it stated that a pickup had been made, or maybe the request was
Closed out.
closed out, and it had been a couple of months, but it was maybe 10 or 15% had called in, period. And so, we went ahead and hung the tags with an idea that this is educational. And then we went ahead and made a list that we turned into Ricky Colston to get everything picked up. I think there were 398 pickups.
Wow.
And then there were 100, yeah, and then there were 187 typical property maintenance code cases open.
So, but you all are implementing a cross-reference to make sure that before you hang that yellow, which I heard is now blue tag.
It's now blue.
I wish it were red.
Yeah.
I'm very strict on code enforcement. I wish it was red, because I'm not playing. Like, people need to stop making our communities landfills.
Okay.
So my other question is, are there any particular items that you will be honing in on the blitz? Like, are you looking for chip paint, overgrowth? Like, what are you training them to say, especially look at this in the blitz,
Okay.
if
So,
at all?
okay, so typically, property maintenance violations. So if the grass is overgrown, if the yard is littered, if they have a freezer on their front porch,
Gotcha.
that,
What's wrong with that?
you gotta put it somewhere
We're in the
right.
South.
We're in the city, not in the county.
Inoperable vehicles, and they need to be obviously inoperable.
Piece of furniture.
He's got pig feet in his freezer on his back porch. Oh, your front porch. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, so, yeah, and then as far as housing violations are concerned, we do understand that some people can't afford to paint their house or whatever. So, if, you know, we do try to not be overly strict, we'll put it that way. So, if, for example, the inspector drives down a street and everybody on that street needs to paint their house, but nobody complained about it, then we may not write those up immediately. We may be a little bit more lenient and move on to bigger things like, oh gosh, there's a tree fell
Right.
through their roof
So there's
down
some
there.
discretion.
So there is some
But should the
discretion on
public
that.
be aware, as we're preparing these blitzes, that y'all are focusing on, like, what are y'all focusing in on that the public can in 2 weeks get ready to
Okay.
get their stuff cleaned up? I know all of it could be subject to violation, but is there anything in particular that the public needs to be preparing themselves for to be ready for?
Well, I think the main things are litter,
Gotcha.
overgrowth, inoperable vehicles in their yards. We understand that housing issues, if there's something major,
Gotcha.
might take a little bit longer, but if there's something that they can go ahead and, you know, take care of on their house
Gotcha.
within a couple of weeks, then
be
yes.
prepared.
Yes, we would
Okay.
like for them to be prepared.
Okay.
And there again, we also understand that, you know, coming into the winter months, if somebody really needs to paint their house, we do understand that it's hard to paint during cold weather. So if there's not a complaint about it, we may save that
Gotcha.
for a little bit later on.
Last question,
Yes.
Chairwoman Hill. This is in reference to the Rain Smart program. Who are the code? Tell us how you work with the Rain Smart program, which I'm a fan of the program, but not the enforcement portion of it. Who on our enforcement team, if at all, is trained to enforce what overgrowth is in comparison to native grass in the Rain Smart program?
Okay, so we really depend on the Rain Smart specialists that are not code enforcement
So
inspectors.
the Rain Smart specialists are the people who are not in code enforcement, are the ones who are trained to go and inspect to see if it's in compliance with our city code?
They are, but Rain Smart did come less than a month ago, and they updated us on their process, and they did provide us with some training. They also provided us with access to a map that shows us what addresses have, our approved Rain Smart yards. And then whenever something comes up, we reach out to them to also take a look, and they are trying to be a little bit, I guess, more particular in what is allowed and what is not allowed. They are providing guidance to the property owners, and then if the property owners do not follow the requirements specifically, then they can get omitted from the program.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Councilman Elliott, did you have a quick follow-up? I wanna make sure we've got time for
Yeah,
food bank.
just two
water.
questions. I think Councilwoman Knoll had sparked some in my eye. Had sparked a question. Is there any formal, what's the name of it? Relief program or any like written policy program that we follow for those who may be elderly, disabled, or on fixed incomes, who found themselves out of compliance with the code and facing fines? Are there any steps we take to work with folks, or any formalized program for us in court?
Okay, so our inspectors do have lists that they keep with them of various programs that could provide assistance. There again, there's simply not enough assistance. But we have been working with the neighborhood services team, the neighborhood relationship specialists. They are reaching out to neighborhood associations and church groups to try to get lists of what these churches or neighborhood associations are able to help other people with, so that we can do a better job of connecting people who need assistance with the assistance
So
that they
let
need.
me ask you this for clarity. So let's say I have a resident in my district who may be disabled, they find themselves out of compliance, hit with some type of code violation. Do we automatically send that to court?
Well, at this point, we're not granting time extensions, so we would send it to court. But Judge Patey, she also provides lists of assistance programs and things like that. And so what she does when those types of cases go to court is she asks, have you applied for these programs? And then normally she will pass the case and allow them time to apply. And then whenever they come back, she'll ask them, have you applied or not? If they have, and maybe they're waiting or whatever, then she will simply continue to pass the case to allow them time. If they don't apply and they don't make some sort of attempt, I've seen her issue a $5 fine and close the case.
Ken, I asked this, I would love to see if we can have some type of formalized process where, we come across somebody with a hardship. They can fill out a hardship form or something, formally letting us know that, hey, I understand, I acknowledge it, but I'm having a hard time addressing it, while they at least get some type of help. And I say that especially for, I feel like Dennis over here, Councilman Clark. We get distracted easy. I see.
I'm on medication. So
I made this of yours. I say this is because it seems like a lot of us are leaning towards how do you strengthen and beefing up code enforcement, right? I'm with Councilman Clark. There's parts of my district that have just been dumping grounds, and I'm tired of seeing it that way. Let's clean it up. But I also don't want those folks to fall in the cracks.
Sure.
So is this something that your office can explore? And I don't know if we can legally set something up in conjunction with Judge Patey, but I would like to see some type of process as we're moving towards strengthening code enforcement and liens and fines and everything else. So we're just not hitting folks.
So I guess, we do try to connect them with maybe some resources. There are not really enough resources. And so at this point, it's up to Judge Patey's, it's up to her purview to decide whether or not to grant time extensions or to close the case, that kind of thing. But on the other hand, you may have a neighbor who is complaining about someone who cannot maintain their property. And we do see that a lot.
Sorry, I didn't mean to. Go ahead. Do we not have the discretion before we cite something?
At
The
this time, we
judge
are
clearly
not.
has discretion whenever she's dealing with issues on there as part of her judicial powers here. So she has that authority. The problem that you have with your folks here in the city is they're supposed to be treating everyone equally.
Yes.
And whenever they're treating everyone equally, that's the reason they issue citations and fines. They get them to the court, and then the judge uses her discretion back and forth on that. So that,
By letting,
So, well, we're at 2:50, so I'd like to wrap this up because the SNAP benefit conversation is critically important. And we will continue this codes conversation later. But one final thing I'll point out is I think it's really helpful to know that you all brought 11,893 code violations into, or the people of Chattanooga had that many code violations and brought them into compliance. They mowed their yard, they did whatever, they were good neighbors to their neighbors. They worked together to solve those problems, and 1,937 required court action. So
Yes.
this council is having intense conversation about some of our frequent flyers that we, that all of us in our districts know that our neighborhood associations are frustrated by. And I think that has been done with a heart of compassion, but also of fairness. And we can continue to have this conversation and explore Councilman Elliott's point about, is there any further structure that we need to have for people who are genuinely unable to maintain their properties, and how might they take accountability for that in a way that works for them and for their neighbors. Thank you very much.
Can I ask one real quick question?
We're at 2:52. Can you do it offline?
Yeah, but.
Okay, thank you. Let's get the food bank on up here, please. We might need to go until 3:10, folks.
oh, I'm sorry, thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Hello.
Thank you all so much for having me this afternoon. I will be very respectful of your time,
Donna, will
Chairwoman
you
Hill.
stick around so that people can ask questions afterwards?
Yes.
Thank you.
Come to this side.
This one over? Yeah.
All right. Thank you for your help. Hold on, hold on.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you all so much for having me this afternoon. It's great to see everyone, and thank you for your service. We did meet with Mayor Kelly yesterday and gave an update on what the Chattanooga Area Food Bank and our network of partners are doing to address the disruption of SNAP benefits for our Hamilton County neighbors and our Chattanooga neighbors. We thought it'd be grateful to share some information with you all as well. We do have a few slides to run through. Certainly, we'll go through those quickly.
This is, will you introduce
I
yourself?
absolutely will. I'm so sorry. I'm Melissa Blevins. I have the privilege to serve as the president and CEO of the Chattanooga Area Food Bank.
Oh, okay.
I think I've been emailing with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you guys have questions, I can stay as long as you all need me to as well. I do have Lori Bell and Corey Ebbett from the Chattanooga Area Food Bank here as well, Chief Impact Officer and our Director of Data Insights. So let's go back to the front here. A little bit about us, our food bank. We are the Chattanooga Area Food Bank, which means 20 counties. I'll really hone in today on the city of Chattanooga and Hamilton County, but just in context, we have a broad reach of 7,000 square miles, 20 counties across the state lines. We serve about 200 community partners. Most of those are faith-based partners, providing hunger solutions, not just in pantries, but in our schools, at our senior centers, and our veteran centers. We work through 3 locations. 2 of them are within the Chattanooga proper, our main location on Amnicola, and then our Foxwood Food Center over off of Wilcox Boulevard. The scale of our work, 38% of all of the impact we have is within Hamilton County. And when I say all of the impact, we're talking about over 20 million pounds of food is aggregated and distributed across our 20 county service area each year. Slides moving on me? I feel like they're moving on me here. Hold on here, let's go back here. 17 million meals, so that equates, our 20 million pounds of food is about 17 million meals provided to the 180,000 of our neighbors who may experience food insecurity on any given day. It is moving on its own, I'm not losing my mind. Okay, and then other programs you guys are probably very familiar with is our Sack Pack program, working with our local schools. And then our tractor trailers, our trucks make deliveries across our community where transportation is a barrier for a lot of our food pantry partners. Bringing the scale down locally to Chattanooga, we have about 100 feeding programs across this county. 24 of them are publicly accessible, so meaning Chattanooga neighbors can walk in the door and get services within the city of Chattanooga. And we also operate mobile distribution pantries, schools like Eastside, Clifton Hills, etc. We're bringing food to those communities. And then we also oversee our Foxwood Food Center, which is our largest food pantry, and it's a grocery store model where a Chattanooga neighbor can come in once a month and get food. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. So what's happening currently with the administration, the disruption of SNAP benefits? For us here locally, about 10,000 of our households rely on SNAP. So think about SNAP as the first safety net for families experiencing food insecurity. It's a public benefit, often known as food stamps. And then the food banks and our food pantries are the last safety net. Those benefits became disrupted on November the 1st. Each day of November, more and more of our Chattanooga families will not have their benefit card reloaded. So that has put an immediate strain on our families, most of who are already incredibly household strained budgets, as you guys know. For every meal that Chattanooga Area Food Bank provides, and I mentioned that earlier, that's over 15 million meals. SNAP benefits provide 9. It gives our neighbors the opportunity to go in the stores and to provide and to get the food they want when they need with that SNAP benefit card. So, I mean, in context, the food bank would need to do 9 times more than what we're already doing to meet the gap created by this disruption in SNAP. So, we are doing. October 20th, we mobilized our emergency response plan, meaning that means we are in full mobilization of emergency scale, bringing more food into the warehouses, expanding our operations, expanding our distribution hours at our pantries, expanding our shifts at our warehouses for our volunteers as well. What that means at Foxwood, which is where over 4,000 Chattanooga neighbors a month get access to food. Starting yesterday, we expanded till 6 o'clock at night, so families could meet that bigger shift there. Which means we have a lot more volunteers coming in to sort and pack food and to help us stock shelves. And we've expanded our staff with additional drivers and operations folks. We're also further supporting our partners. So think about the other community partners that often do food that you think about, the Bethlehem Center, Salvation Army, many of our community partners across our footprint. We are lifting them up as well, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. We're waiving their delivery fees. We're offering more food online. Most people think the food bank, they think donations of food. Only 20% of our inventory is donated. So we highly rely on government food programs like the TCAP program. And then we'll spend about $5 million purchasing truckloads of peanut butter and cereal and staple goods that our families need.
And just to clarify.
Yep.
The donated food, I mean, really, a cash donation goes further than a dollar of donated food, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So you could go out to the store at retail and buy a jar of peanut butter. Our truck's gonna buy a truckload, and we may be able to buy 2 jars of peanut butter or 3 jars of peanut butter. So not only are we expanding our operations to reach the families directly at our pantry programs and our mobile pantries, we're also supporting our community partners by helping them expand their hours, their days of operations, whatever they need to be able to meet the longer lines at their locations. So here's one quick snapshot. This is just yesterday, just at Foxwood. Last year on November 4th, we served 246 families. Yesterday we had a 33% increase. That was the first day we've been open since the SNAP interruption. So we can see pretty quickly the number of children who are now being served, 52% increase from last year, which is direct correlation to those families with children not having access to SNAP. So I want you to know we are responding now. We've responded quickly. We are built for moments of crisis like this, just like we were in the pandemic. But there will be a ripple effect no matter if those restored SNAP benefits are brought back today, which the government is now saying could be weeks or even months before the federal government can get this emergency funds down to the state levels for them to reload those cards. So it could be a long time. We're not expecting that to be soon, and when it does, there's only about 50% of the funding needed to reload these SNAP cards for our food insecure families. So this is a long game for us. We're here today to serve your community, serve your constituents. We understand this ripple effect will play for these family budgets for months to come. For us particularly, our USDA, our Commodities Federal Nutrition Program, all of the food that should have been ordered and planned for in October when the shutdown happened has not been planned for or ordered. So that means we, at the food bank, will see that disruption of food January, February, and March. So the longer the government stays shut down, the more disruption on the supply chain for us as well. And then the economic perspective, working closely with our grocery store retail partners, because all of these grocery stores heavily rely on SNAP, in particular in low-income areas or rural areas. So there's a huge economic impact as well that's happening. Someone asked me yesterday, like, what would it take to just close the gap for what SNAP has created? Our food bank spends over $1 million every single month to meet the need of our neighbors in our community. We would need to multiply that by 9. So our $12 million annual budget would become $120 million. So while we are well equipped to respond to crisis and to meet the need, we cannot bridge the gap that SNAP's created. We can uphold this community in the few weeks and months ahead of us to make sure those who need food have food. But it is a big challenge in our community today. So I don't want to minimize this. This is as catastrophic for us as it was in the pandemic. So final slide here is just what we've asked our community to do is to stand with us, use your voice if you know someone that needs food. Our Find Food app on our website is iterative. It can geo-target neighbors where they are. It's constantly being updated with expanded hours and locations as we find those places to do more. We need volunteers, 6,500 volunteers every year. We probably need 9,000 today if we keep on at this. And then as Chairwoman Hill mentioned, people can give. Every dollar counts. So that is me in the really fast 302 mode.
Thank you, Council. What questions do we have? Does anybody have any questions? Councilman Elliott.
Council, I don't know about you all, and I've talked about it before. Nobody knows what this is going to look like these next coming weeks. I would like to see if folks are interested in us working with administration to find funds to set aside in the event that this prolongs more than anybody's ready for. And we can't fill anybody's complete stopgap. We can't fill that hole, but we can alleviate some of it. And I don't think we really need to give right now. But I would be open to us finding funds to set aside in case a worst case scenario comes about and we need to kind of help fill that hole for folks. So the food bank or whoever else our partners out there aren't just completely struggling and until some of those benefits click on. I don't know how anybody else feels about that. I also want to give a shout out on this topic. Dylan Rivera sent a really great map that gave me a lot of perspective on some of the realities of SNAP in my community. So thank you, sir, for that. I really appreciate it. So I want to throw that out there. I don't know how anybody else feels about it, but I think we should really look into it.
Councilwoman Dotley.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Melissa, for your work, and Lori and Corey for the response, because I got your email the other day, and I asked, when you asked, can we have district level stuff, and you sent it right away. But just as one of your food partners in my other job, I just appreciate what you are doing. Just so y'all know, the food bank had a call to action. What was it, Wednesday? Last Wednesday, it was roughly almost 100 people on the call, organizations, trying to figure out what can we do collectively together. So I'm on board with Councilman Elliott to see how can we support, what we're doing. I guess first finding out from either Ellis or Chris or whoever what the administration already has lined up, and then we ride it out from there, because they definitely need the support. And I appreciate you providing the data so we can better understand how this is impacting our community. I was out on the west side last Friday or Thursday, whatever day, and so far they had counted 180 individuals just in that pocket that were going to be going through it. So the food bank had already delivered to them, and they had already started giving the food out. So that's how fast you all have reacted. So I just want to say thank you, because I've been working with you all for a long time. And so I just really appreciate the work that you're doing. And then whatever we can do, Councilman Elliott, I ride with you on that, because food, shelter, and clothing are basic things. And there's no reason that a country this wealthy should have people suffering like this. You know, especially people with kids, because the only way you have a nation if you have people in it, and the people in it need to have children. I don't have any, but for those who do have the children, we need to make sure that we are supporting them as best as we can. So
To give you quick context, we have already committed $500,000, up to $500,000 already, this month.
okay,
So that is, I mean, we're in it, we're shaking the trees, we're working with the city and state governments across the lines, and then local governments within each of those counties. We don't want anybody going hungry. We will
Right.
do as much as we can in partnership with whoever we can to make sure that the needs of our community is met.
right. So yeah, thank you so much, Madam Chair. Thank you, Councilman Elliott, for that recommendation.
Thank you, Chairwoman. This might be a question for you. You may have some insight on what is already in the works about this. And I also want to point out to my colleagues that I'm not sure how long ago, but the county pulled all of their funding to the Chattanooga Area Food Bank. Is that correct?
They did, and it was restored
And it was restored. When was it restored?
this year.
Okay, this year.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
So, you're welcome. But as far as for the city, are we currently involved in some type of, and this is for educational, are
We
you,
have funding for
Yes.
this.
okay.
Yes. We are
Gotcha.
currently in, I think, the third year of a 3-year contract with
Did
the
the
city.
county restore back at full capacity what they were doing, or was it a lower level?
I believe it was the same, yes.
Okay, gotcha.
Thank you for asking.
No worries. I just want to be on the record as far as like, by bringing this to this body, like what can we do? A lot of us are already, I tell people food security has been issues well before this became a political issue. So our churches have been already stepping up, and what I want to know, Chairwoman Hill, is like, what is in the works and what do we need to do? Thank you for the presentation. Thank you for the data. I don't see a lot of, as I'm looking at food insecurity rates and the food insecure population, I actually don't see my zip codes on there. And so that lets me know that maybe my district could lean in more. You know what I mean? So again, thank you for the presentation, but what do we need to do from a fiduciary perspective in collaboration with the mayor's office? Maybe we need to dip into the rainy day fund. I don't know. This feels like a rainy day to me until this government opens back up.
I was looking for.
And then, so that's it.
Something that I'd like to add to the question of what is our plan for
Yeah.
how we move forward. I mean, acknowledging that the people of the United States of America have paid for these SNAP benefits with our taxes, right? So we have all contributed to this, and my hope would be that if cities, states front the money, organizations front the money, that there would be some kind of reimbursement, yeah. But something that stands out to me is something that we have a lot of in the city of Chattanooga is employees. And might our employees be able to be deployed at certain times to be the additional hands and feet that this food bank might need, right? Because we obviously,
Gotcha.
we may be able to provide some financial assistance, but $9 million a month is something that none of us have budgeted for, right? And so how might we all have that loaves and fishes moment if part of that is that our staff, we rotate through and everybody, does some shifts there. And, we're still paying our staff to do that. That's something I'd like us to explore. But I know Darren and the mayor's office have been chatting, so Phil.
We have, thank you, Madam Chair, because one of the reasons that Melissa is here is today because of the meeting we had with the food bank yesterday, and we were very excited that you came to us, and obviously the mayor shares his concern, obviously tracking this very unfortunate situation. So that's why they are here today, is to take the temperature of council so that we can work forward collaboratively.
Okay, so let's just stay in touch then.
But is it an ask, like a particular amount? Like, can we not be specific in why they're here?
Can we have that conversation?
Sure.
Okay.
But out of the public, are we saying like not here?
Well, we know that
maybe
they
not
would
right
need to.
exactly at this particular second,
Yeah.
when we're talking about dollar amount,
Oh,
we would
okay.
like an opportunity to look into and see what options we have, and actually yours option that you suggested was not off the
Well,
table.
because time is of the essence, and so I'm thinking,
And we don't meet next week.
and we don't meet next week, and so if there's something that we need to lean in on, I suggest you all put in an official ask, so it can be considered at the appropriate time when we're in council. My recommendation, Madam Chair.
I think the mayor's office is looking at the timing closely.
We're working very closely with the food bank, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Thank thank you all so much for your time and consideration of these matters. We appreciate you coming
you all.
and doing the work that you do and sharing with us, Melissa. Thank you all. And thank you again to Codes Enforcement. Everybody's still here to be able to answer questions. I know we had a couple offlines that we needed to have answered. See you all in 20 minutes.
Corey,
Thank you.
Corey.
We are adjourned.